Ready? Ready? Alright, go for it, Michelle.
Ready? Okay, my name is Michelle Becker. This is my capstone defense. I just want to start by thanking Dr. DeVita and Dr. Parker for all your help and support during this whole year and semester, especially in making sure that I graduated in May, because I know that presented challenges with the program just starting. And then Mr. Ray, who could not be here because of personal circumstances. This is just an overview of my presentation today. First, I'll discuss the case and the key issues of that case, and then my perspective on the incident, the environmental factors that played a role. I also found 2 journal articles that I'll review that I thought were relevant to the situation, and then a theoretical perspective, the legal issues, and then both a reactive and a proactive response, and then assessment. The case was campus climate at Oceanside University. And then the case summary. Oceanside University was a 100-year-old public land-grant university on the West Coast. It had about 30,000 students, and currently right now African American, the enrollment for students is down. The other part of the case was Greek life. And they have these themed parties that they host throughout the year. And they are approved by a Greek programming board. And then police in the past 3 years, and I'll go into more detail later, have had issues with public intoxication, fights, alcohol poisoning, and drugs. There was one incident where a young lady from the university who was attending one of these was taken to the hospital for a GHB drug, which is a date rape drug, and the police didn't find any suspects in that case, but she was treated for that. And then the party that was put on by the Greek organization was originally called Culture Night, and it stayed as Culture Night, but then they also added another tagline onto that said, "In celebration of Black History Month." And with that, they advised students to dress in gangster clothing, wearing baggy clothes, gold teeth, and bling. The key issues, the Oceanside BSU, the Black Student Union, was upset by the party, the pictures that were posted after, and the fact that the Greek organization hosted an event like this. The Greek parties currently off campus where they're housed. There are 3 other fraternities housed very close to that vicinity, and they all take turns throwing these themed parties. So it's not like there's just a party every once in a while. It's just a continuous thing. And then the residents around those areas, it's not just community members. A lot of them are OU students. Diversity played a big role. Obviously, the enrollment for African Americans is down at OU, so that population it doesn't play as significant as a role as the Greek life. And then the student conduct and social media. Social media, the local news stations really kind of got a hold of this story from the Black Student Union once they posted an article, and then the student conduct students just aren't really taking responsibility for their actions. These are the stakeholders: the president of the university, the vice president of student affairs and dean of students, the board of trustees, alumni, student and faculty, and then the media, students, campus organizations, and then the community. My perspective on the case, one, I believe everyone deserves a space on campus. And so no matter if you're affiliated with an organization such as Greek Life, if you're part of the Black Student Union, if you're just a student, if you're working on campus with a department, like, you have a space in the university. It's their responsibility to make sure that you feel invited, that you don't feel singled out by another group, and that you're making sure to meet those needs of all the students. And then one other thing was congruence, the value of brotherhood. So this was put on by a fraternity. And this, when you join that organization, their firm belief is this is our brotherhood. This is how you need to treat the other members in the organization. This is how you need to carry yourself on campus. And it's something that isn't just at that institutional level. Like, they really say this, like, you're a brother for life. And those values, how does that represent when they're throwing a party like this and singling out other people on campus, even if it wasn't intentional? I really think that just looking at that through the fraternity, how they should be treating other people too. I think that a statement should have been released by the university at the very beginning, and then address the letter that the Black Student Union wrote to the president, and then also published in the newspaper right away. So not necessarily providing answers, but just saying we are looking into that. And then just having a quick response and looking into the actions of the fraternity. Like I already discussed, the campus environmental factors, the fact that Greek housing is located near campus, and a lot of those houses are housed right by each other, so in that same area. Students living on campus are involved with the Greek community. They're living near those houses, going to those parties that are thrown, and the community heard about the incident from the articles that were published, the pictures on Facebook, and that's how then it gained national news attention as well too. The diversity on campus, enrollment numbers are down for African American students, and the university right now is doing a quest for excellence, and this was an 8-year plan that they had campaign that they decided to do that was to enhance the prestige of the university and its endowment, and there were 4 different factors just to help realign institutional priorities. They were relooking at a facilities improvement plan and enhancing funds for research and increasing faculty recruitment and retention. And right now they are in the 2nd year of that, and they had decided to increase tuition by 12%, and it was called a merit fee. The faculty senate approved it right away. The students knew that it would help with academics, it would provide resources, it would increase just academics all around, but then it could make it unaffordable for some students. So some students might not even apply to OU or might not be able to continue attending that university. And I think that that really plays a role too in the fact that some enrollment numbers are down, and how are those going to look with that new fee. This was my first journal article, and it was done by the University of Texas, and they were just looking at if racism existed in Greek life. They had some incidences where offensive party themes were thrown at the university as well. George Lopez, who was an Hispanic senior there, said that people don't dress up with the sole purpose to be racist and insult people of that race. People do it for fun, and there are some people that sometimes might take it too far, but those are few and far between. So his attitude was kind of like the fraternities at OU, that, well, it was just in good fun, we weren't trying to hurt anyone's feelings, and not really taking responsibility and critically thinking about the situation and how it would present to others. Out of the survey individuals, 65% of Greeks said that racism did exist, and they actually had a group on their campus called the Campus Climate Response Team that monitored these events and took that data and information. And there were 15 of these parties reported in one semester that were considered racist. And like the one student, Mr. Hernandez said, that some of them were viewed as racist and some of them were viewed on good fun, depending on what the students thought. So just really, it does need to be an educational piece for universities, and just looking back, and is this really what students, the views that they should have. The second article was a recent event that occurred at Duke University, and this was through the fraternity Kappa Sigma, and they originally had called their themed party Asian Prime, and they were warned about it, told like this is not an acceptable theme, you don't need to do this, and so they changed it to international relations. They ended up still having the party, and they were suspended for that. What really should have happened was the party should have been canceled as soon as they were warned. The president of the fraternity did say that they were deeply remorseful for the damage done by individuals, but by then they'd already been warned they'd had the party anyways, and the outcome was what they were warned about not having. And the fraternity had already been kicked off campus and then just recently let back on campus. So this just goes to show that these were just some of the other, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio, North Carolina, where when I was researching just found cases of Greek organizations that were having themed parties, having incidents like this. So it's not just occurring here in North Carolina, but all over the United States. The theory I thought really related most to this was Colburn's stages of moral reasoning. And there are 6 different stages, and they occur at 3 different levels. So pre-conventional, conventional, and then post-conventional. And in stage 1, heteronomous morality, they're obeying the rules and laws to avoid punishment. So if they're not thinking about what's right and wrong and taking that into account, they're really just thinking about, well, I need to do this so that I don't get in trouble, or so that I'm not punished. Stage 2, individualistic, instrumental morality, and they're following the rules that they meet interest. So what they believe would be fair, or what they agree with. So if they believe that it's right and it's a rule, then they're following it that way. Stage 3, interpersonal normative morality, they're meeting expectations to close and important individuals, trying to get that good person image and approval of others, looking to see those that are important to them following rules and regulations or their actions based on what others would believe to be the right thing to do. Stage 4, social system morality, and in this, the social system rules and procedures apply to all. So there's not anything about right or wrong, this person does it, that person does it, it's just everything applies to everyone. And stage 5, human rights and social welfare morality, laws and social system based on the extent to promote fundamental human rights and values. So moral obligations and social relationships are based on being able to depend on the individual. So they think about others during this stage, what other people view to be right, wrong, what society views to be right and wrong. And then stage 6, morality of universalizable, reversible, and prescribed general ethical principles, and equal consideration of all points involved in the situation, and decisions are based on universal principles. So they're looking at those laws and regulations, but they're also looking at the individual and the situation and what happened. So this might have been a law, but in this circumstance, what was this person, why did they do the actions that they did? And in my perspective, the fraternity is really in stage 2, which the defined as they meet the rules, expectation, laws if they meet their interest. So they follow expectations based on if they believe it's right. First of all, the party was approved by the Greek Programming Board. So they're thinking, oh, okay, well, we went through these procedures, we got it approved, we followed what we needed to do with the university, and then we have the party. But what they're not thinking about is the theme of the party, the extra tagline they added on to the party, and how that affected other individuals at the university and how it looked to them and how it was considered racist. They're just thinking, oh, we were just doing it for fun, we didn't do anything wrong. So even though they didn't intend to offend individuals, they did. And then one little thing I just kind of wanted to add on there, I feel like the Black Student Union would be like in the stage 4 of that, and that the rules and procedures do apply to all. So they were upset about the party that went on, and they believe that going to the president of the university with a letter explaining that, just that the fraternity action should be taken based on that, because they followed the rules to get the party approved, but then yet it was still considered racist, and they did add an extra tagline and stuff to that. Legal issues in this case, I just think freedom of speech and student press, because the fraternity did have the Facebook, which individuals are allowed to have that. This is just where they really promoted for the event in the beginning, and had, asking students to dress a certain way, And then during and after the event, the pictures and captions that were posted along with what students and individuals wore. And then a letter from the BCU to the campus newspaper, and then also the letter that they wrote to the president for that. The one thing, tort. The fraternity participated in acts of prejudice and racism. And so I believe that it's an intentional interference tort. And although the fraternity did not mean to upset or hurt anyone, they still did. They didn't do it intentionally. They weren't hostile and, ranting and raving about this or doing anything at the party to harm anyone, but they still did. And the president of the university even stated it was just for fun. I don't understand what people are upset about. It was just a party. People who think this is racism are just wrong. They shouldn't take themselves so seriously. And so the fraternity really needs to take into consideration and think critically, was the party racist? Why does the BCU think it was racist? And they need to think about what kind of things did they say before, did they say after? And so even though it was just all in fun, practical joke for them, they did still injure a party. And then the programming board approved the event, but then there needed to be follow-up or checking in and finding out, yes, you did ask to have this party, you're still having it, but have you added something else to that? For my reactive response, I said the president of the university should make a statement, and this is just a brief statement that should have been made first thing as soon as the incident was brought to the attention of the university. Just simply stating that they're aware of the situation, they're investigating it further, and they'll release more details as they are allowed or as they're able to. And then the investigation should be completed or started as soon as possible with all parties involved. So the fraternity, but also the Greek organization in general, who attended the party, other OU students that attended it, and then also with the BCU. And then all Greek parties should be canceled until further notice, so the Greek programming board should not be approving any events until after this investigation is complete. I think that the fraternity should be put on probation, and also an apology response should be prepared for the VSU. So even if it's just a simple statement, a short letter, something, just right away just letting them know we are aware there's an investigation taking place, but as a fraternity we realize that we shouldn't have done this. And then a statement should be also released, just a short one like they released to students, faculty, and staff through email, just to the community and media sources, so that they know that they're investigating the situation, because there were phone calls where they were like, oh, they're just reporters fishing for stories, and disregarded it instead of handling it right away, and that's just how things kind of escalated out of control. So just making sure that those media outlets do know that it's being investigated. That's all the information that they can provide, and hopefully it won't spread nationally like it did. Technology, through obviously university email and then surveys, there's part of the assessment piece that I think that should be sent out to students, faculty, and staff, just asking questions, and I'll go into detail with that later, but whatever format the university uses. I know I've used all of these here, but some universities pay for a certain service, so whatever that would be. And then this is a video that I just wanted to show about Baylor students, and then I'll talk more about it after.
Pictures surfaced of them dressed in Mexican costumes. The pictures have been deemed by some as racist and offensive, and it prompted an investigation. The News Channel 25 John Elizondo joins us live with the story. And John, the university is clarifying these pictures were not taken on campus.
That's right, Bruce. The university is saying these pictures indeed were taken off campus and did not happen at a function sponsored by a student organization. These pictures were first discovered by the website LatinoRebels.com, and we have learned the pictures were taken on Halloween and were found by the website on the Baylor students' Facebook page. The images show 5 females dressed in serapes, sombreros, mustaches, and have appeared to have put a substance on their face that resembles dirt. They also were wearing green signs around their neck that read "green card." In another picture found on one of the students' Instagram accounts, the students sit on top of a fence and included a caption that read, "Best entrance ever, hashtag Mexicans, hashtag hop in the fence, Viva Mexico." The university says they have no tolerance for racism at the school, and thus they will continue to investigate the situation.
Are currently investigating the incident. We are fully aware of it, and we have identified the students who were involved in the incident, and we are in the middle of having conversations with them through our student conduct process.
These photos came in light of an incident that occurred at Penn State University earlier this week where members of the Chi Omega sorority did a similar thing. No punishment has been made in the Penn State incident, and Baylor says they will continue to investigate the situation more before any decision by them is made. Meanwhile, the Facebook and Instagram accounts of the Baylor student has been deleted. John Elizondo, News Channel 25.
Okay, and I just decided to show that just because these are Greek students, but it just goes to show that this is something that obviously is happening outside of their themed parties. So it's something that's happening across the United States, but it's not just at parties thrown. This was a Halloween event, so what kind of educational component universities need to look into for educating students on what is appropriate attire for a party? Obviously you can't tell students what to wear, but just making sure you educate them on racism and diversity and making sure that you're thinking about all parties involved and other students at the university, how those perceived actions will affect them. And then for my reactive response when I was going through preparing that, I was just trying to think about like the quickest, easiest way to inform everyone involved and communicating quickly with students, faculty, staff, and the community before things started getting out of hand. And as the newspaper article came out through campus newspaper and media sources started calling in, just trying to get a handle on that and let students know the university is aware of the situation and they are investigating it further. And then just suspending all events until after the investigation could be complete. In creating my proactive response, I just tried to think about looking at the long-term picture and taking a step back and creating some ways to respond to the situation that might take longer but might be more beneficial for the university. So meeting with the Fraternity and Greek Programming Board, first just to establish if there is a need for an educational component. Do we need to have either workshops or sessions provided for the Greek community on diversity and issues with discrimination? And then also possibly looking into the university and having either another position created or someone at the university stepping in and kind of taking on the role of meeting with the different Greek organizations, the fraternities and sororities throughout this process when they're getting theme party approvals, when they're hosting events on campus or off campus. Just so that that person, one, can talk to them, follow up with the organizations, and then also monitoring the social networking sites so that maybe issues like this could be prevented. I had a personal experience here that kind of shaped my response. When I came as a freshman, I rushed a sorority it was going through, and we had some issues with hazing, and we had an individual here who met with everyone who was involved in the incident, talked to all of us, got everyone's side of the story. Based on that, went back, processed everything, and then met with our president, one, to find out how she was going to address the incident and with these new members you're trying to initiate, and then also two current members on how our chapter was going to handle that and deal with that. And then also at a university level, because they obviously did not follow the procedures and rules of the university. So having someone who can facilitate those meetings, who can be that follow-up person and make sure that issues like this, if they do happen, one, they can be handled quickly, and then two, to hopefully help prevent further issues from happening. And then the events that are approved by the university organizations, obviously the Greek Programming Board approved these events, but looking into that and seeing possibly if there needs to be more standards with that, if they need to have a certain set of guidelines, with those procedures. And then a meeting scheduled between the university president and the BSU, either their executive board or some of their members, just letting them know we are investigating the situation. I want you to know we did hear what you had to say, and we'll follow up as soon as we can once the investigation is complete. And then students' perceptions on diversity, figuring out, it's kind of like a campus climate survey, finding out what they have seen on campus, what they perceive the diversity to be, what they would like it to be, and finding out answers to those. So for assessing the programs, having a survey that's sent out to students, faculty, and staff, and really the detailed ones sent out to the students, and where you're asking those questions about what's the amount of diversity they see present on campus, where are they seeing that diversity? Is it only in the union where the Black Student Union is? Is it other places? Is it in some of the classrooms? Is it not really present? Do they see a strong presence of Greek life on campus? And then do they feel like Greek organizations maybe take advantage of certain situations? And then have they attended a theme party before? Did they find it to be racist? And would they like to see more diversity on our youth campus? And that's just some of the questions that they could ask in that to get from students. And it should be sent out however the university wants to send it, depending on their survey methods. And then that should be looked at and assessing two different pieces. So you're not only assessing Greek life and how it operates and is it functioning, or do we need to make some changes in that as far as education, procedures for having events, and then looking at the diversity around picture. The larger picture for that on campus is, does it need to be increased? How can they increase it? What can they do to meet those needs of students? After the survey is sent out and taken back, the communications office should follow up, and I think another focus group should be created where they're meeting with student organizations, so either the president of those organizations or a representative from the organization, faculty and staff, and then a small group of students. Just finding out what questions do they feel like the survey answered the questions that they wanted answered. Was there anything they were confused about? Were there any further questions that they would have or want to look into? And then once they're reviewed based on the results from the survey, the results from the focus group that they had, then that should be put together in a presentation for students where you're educating them. These are the results that we found. We found that we do need to educate our Greek life more, so before the semester starts, they have to, when they are here early practicing for recruitment, they also have to go through a day-long training with the university on issues, or if there needs to be more diversity on campus, how they're going to create programs, have people come to campus and create those opportunities for more diversity and also education. And then at the end of that, just having a simple response either through another survey or through, I know, an application like Poll Everywhere. Did they find the information informative? Do they feel better about diversity on campus? Would they attend a Greek or non-Greek program after that? And then also to the results based on this, if there was funding to hire another person for Greek life in that position, this could kind of be a way for them to write that up and say, this is our need that we have. We've talked to our students, we've had this situation happen, and this is why we need that individual who does meet with the different Greek organizations for that. So in conclusion, based on all this, the fraternity is responsible for their actions in the theme party that they threw. Their intent was not to hurt anyone's feelings, it wasn't to offend anyone, it wasn't to be racist, but they were, and they are responsible for that. The university is responsible for conducting the investigation, so following up with the fraternity, with the BSU, and faculty and staff. And then the BSU, they should be followed up with, and let the organization know that we are looking in the situation that's being investigated, and then the Greek programming board looking into that, whether or not the guidelines for approving programs needs to be changed. If there needs to possibly be a certain number of themed parties that can be thrown per semester, per year, if there needs to be a set of circumstances depending on what kind of theme parties are thrown. Do they need to have them so many of a certain kind each year, or a set of guidelines to follow through that with them. And these are my references.
Okay.
Do you want me to stop recording?
Yeah, go ahead and stop recording.